What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Inside Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. My favorite day of the week. It is Wednesday. I'm trying to change my hand motion
You
here
know what
so
that
I'm not getting
means.
mimicked. You know what that means? We got Mike Ryan here blessing us with his presence. I know you got a very busy schedule. You're going to Daytona Beach. You're going to Las Vegas for Wrestlemania. What else have you got going on?
I've got Vegas for Wrestlemania this weekend, back in town for like 3 days, then off to Talladega, infield. My friends over at DraftKings are sending me out there to do the whole weekend premium RV experience. Got to see what these Talladega buttholes are all about. And then I go to Mexico, Tequila, Mexico for the Acampa Music Festival. That's with one of my partnerships. Then I get like a week off, and then I go to Daytona for Welcome to Rockville.
Week off.
Yeah, so yeah, living's hard right now, but I plan. I'm here midweek a lot of those weeks, so it seems as though I'll be able to uphold our Wednesday relatively consistently. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to be here on a random April Wednesday with a ton of news. You are the news guy, but first, it's a big day in the sporting world. Pete, hop in.
Remontada. Let's go, baby. It's game day. Let's go.
It's weird. We kind of feel like it's going to happen today, Pete. It's in the air.
It's going to happen.
If there's one team that can bottle this.
Don't let us get one in the first 20.
There's one team
don't
that
let
can
us
bottle
get one
this.
in the first 20.
It's probably Tottenham. But if there's a second team that can bottle this, it's probably Arsenal. So,
dude,
Pete,
it's pretty chilly in here, so this actually is perfect for the occasion. Shout out to our boy Santiago Chi for getting this straight from the Bernabeu last year.
So what is that? What's going on? Bring it up to speed here. What are you talking about?
We got the Champions League.
Champions League.
So,
Madrid down 3-0.
So which country that you are not, a citizen of, are we?
This is actually one of the few that.
No, I can claim this one. My family's Spanish. I can claim this.
Yeah.
Wait, what is this? This is what is this?
This is
Madrid.
This is club soccer, men's club soccer.
Okay.
Real Madrid, over this incredible recent run that they've had, in which they're hogging up Champions League trophies throughout this entire run. One of their signatures is crazy comebacks. You think they're dead, and they come back from the dead. However, this is probably the most stacked the card has been against Real Madrid. They surrendered 3 goals, scored none in the first leg. They have to overcome a 3-goal deficit at home. If there's one team that can do it, it's Real Madrid.
We'll be at the lucky high top, and we're getting Cowboy off the IR.
Yeah, there we
I
go.
like our chances.
We are all hoping that this happens just for the memes, because it's going to be great to laugh at Arsenal. But again, set the table. Huge news day for Miami Hurricanes football and athletics. Lots of news going on, and we have the most plugged-in person you want on that beat. Peter or Rees, go for it. I'm just kidding. It's not basketball. We'll get to you in a second. D-Money, let's give the people the latest updates.
Yeah, I mean, what the world really is tuned in on, from Africa to Asia, South America, abroad, is Nikar entering the transfer portal. Really, this kind of fits into me. We did videos on Horton and Zaquan yesterday. This kind of fits in to me with those, in terms of, you're talking about guys that at different points people were excited about. I relayed that message. Hey, coaches are excited about, Josh Horton's flashes in practice. They're excited about Zaquan Patterson starting to do the right things. They're excited about Nikar making plays. But one thing you see with all 3 of these guys, they didn't really play much in spring. Horton was out pretty much the whole spring, which has been his MO. He's looked good when he's played, but he's never been there. Patterson was out, lost some weight. Then Carr played more than they did, but was still kind of in and out. And then other guys really jumped to the forefront. Jojo Trader, who he came in with, kind of took that next step to where you could trust him as a playmaker to build around. Nikar didn't follow Trader on that step. I think body-wise, the improvement that Trader made that maybe Carr didn't make for whatever reason could just be natural. That's one reason for the separation. Josh Moore came in ready to play physically, made a lot of different plays. Malachi Tony, we talked about him a ton, what he did in the spring game. And Dalen Upshaw, who kind of similar to Nikar as far as where they might be used on the field, bigger, stronger, just sturdier. So I think all of those things led to this. Nikar had a big price tag. He's someone we had a flip from Georgia, which wasn't cheap. Modern era college football, everybody's impatient. The player's impatient. The staff's impatient. There's money involved. There's potentially a cap now coming up. So, he didn't work out. I never heard a bad word about the kid, Nikar. Always heard he was a good kid. I think he is somebody who has potential if like a Louisville or someone like that just comes in and tries to swoop him, Georgia Tech. And then I don't know where he would go, but just like that kind of school, put some weight on him, gives him some reps. I think he could be a guy that hits and ends up fulfilling his potential in his second stop. But impatience, the influx of freshmen, what's going to happen here in the portal here, I think all of these things led to this decision. And from Nick Carr's standpoint, he wanted to play more. So that's how you get this one.
It's tough to see people go, especially people that those watching on their devices might have already talked themselves into over the recruitment process, got excited over the flipping from Georgia to Miami, read positive message board items on the player. So you feel like you develop a relationship. So it's always sad to see people go, but this is big time college football, and sometimes you have to embrace the portal in both ways, in both directions. Yeah, Nike Carr, for some of you out there, you may be bummed about that, but that just means he got lapped in the depth chart. I got to tell you, I'm not surprised that this day came. Nike Carr just wasn't developing at the same pace that some of the other guys were. If it was a game of musical chairs over the course of the spring, you kind of knew that he was odd man out. Zaquan, to me, and I know you guys covered this yesterday, is probably the more different. It's certainly different. He played a lot for a freshman like that. He was making an impact, and yes, I know he was frustrating, but you could certainly talk yourself into. He played a lot that first season. He's going to develop. He's under a new defensive coordinator. So I'm not here for the people slandering Zaquan, because people got excited about having a freshman crack that starting defense, such that it was. I understand that it had problems, and many of the problems towards the latter part of the season kind of fell on him. At least that's the way the tape looked like sometimes. It's a little bit more complicated than that. I do wish all these players well. There's no hard feelings. I think that this is actually a sign of encouragement that the roster is kind of leveling up around some of these players, particularly in the secondary. That is a very good thing. Now, we said last week that the secondary, they could probably use another safety anyways, and that was taking Zaquan into account. Now you definitely need to address that, not just to get a starter in there, but also for depth. So particularly when it comes to that secondary, how we got to assume that there's probably going to be an addition there from depth.
Or maybe a subtraction
too. Are there position changes that might address some of this depth? I know that we'll see what happens with Damari, but I know that you've always been kind of saying safety might be the move for him. Does this perhaps change some situations for players already on this roster? What do you think?
Well, Damari came back and looked good, probably better than I thought he would. He came right in and looked fast, looked physical, played cornerback well. Honestly, it looked real good when it was him and Xavier Lucas out there, just looking at it and seeing how they were moving and seeing their size. That opened some eyes. He got a lot of reps with the first team. So I think Damari came in from his injury because he missed the beginning of spring, which has been a theme with him, but he came in and really looked good. So I think the arrow with Damari is trending up. So far as different positions, we'll see. I mean, I suspect that maybe that'll be after the portal closes, trying to figure out how everybody goes.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I could see, so at the corner position, you brought in a lot of guys, you didn't expect necessarily an Xavier Lucas situation to unfold. You were still working different guys in the portal. So you ended up getting a lot of portal guys at once. Plus, Damari looking good at corner, which I think you didn't know for sure was going to happen, but you're seeing it. Chris Ewald's really developed. I think Chris Ewald's someone who's going to play. So you've gone from a corner issue to probably a surplus of corners. So you could see some movement there, both, I think, out the program and then also guys playing different positions.
Yeah. Who's likely? It's a hallmark of college football. We saw it with Mish Powell, these hybrids that can play safety and corner. Is there anybody like that on the roster? I know Damari is someone that you've had your eyes on as a potential safety move. Is there anybody else?
Well, there's also the nickel, right? There's the nickel spot. Charles Brantley, I think nickel for sure with him. But, you could see other guys cross-train there. As far as someone moving to safety, I think more likely we bring in two safeties is my guess. One, just a true kind of like poiser where he can do a lot of different things. And then maybe somebody's more like that nickel box tone setting safety that just kind of has unique skill set. I could see that where you get two guys that do different things. Maybe one more complete safety, one guy maybe more box oriented.
Pete, I'd like to bring you in here because are you seeing these comments right now? People are pretty negative. They're good. They're going at the staff's inability to develop guys, saying that we're far too dependent on the portal. Correct me if I'm wrong. These are all guys that we recruited out of high school, right? I think Miami's actually pretty balanced when it comes to that stuff. I don't really understand the negativity going on right now. I don't see these as bad departures. I see these as a good sign that Miami's leveling up.
I mean, my thing more than anything is that I think, listen, I'm not going to bash the Canes fans. We're all very passionate about stuff, guys come in and coming out because we followed them from when, their high school careers.
I'm not
I
bashing
get that.
them.
But but this is
bashing.
what I will say. And to a certain degree, us Canes fans don't always follow what's happening at Georgia on a week out basis, at Ohio State, these other programs. The same stuff is happening everywhere else, man. So
take a look at California.
And D, you and I get to look at this through the group chat sports stuff. Like every program has massive former 5-star recruits. When I say every program, I'm talking about the programs that you want Miami to be affiliated with, right? Everyone has it, and there's turnover everywhere. We were just talking about Georgia needing to bring in 2 edge rushers and a running back and some more defensive help.
They
right?
might need
on
a
the show
quarterback.
yesterday. So again, I'm not saying that everything is perfect, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that, but at the same time, someone made a comment here who basically said, "Look, guys are going to leave. You got to replace them with someone. You got to upgrade the roster every opportunity you get. You get how many chances now? You get it in January. You get it now, and obviously with your recruiting class, you get this is you can't add guys during the season." Right. So you gotta do it now. Upgrade at every spot you possibly can.
What a European Pete is. He's got the Lagorge hat. It's actually, it looks more like a Euro trendy kind of hat, but it's actually Lagorge Country Club there in Miami Beach, and then the scarf, and you got your Tuscan leather bag sitting right beside you from Tuscany Direct.
You're on that,
and you're drinking sparkling water.
For sure.
It's not sparkling water. It's not sparkling.
Okay.
It's just Mountain Valley.
Well,
okay.
you are all on that Metro European vibe. Like, why don't rice?
I don't know you from holding the wall.
Eric Lancaster, any issue if some of these STA kids leave like Ryan Mack and or Chance Robinson or the Lyles and OJ Frederick solidify the pipeline? With Ryan Mack and Chance Robinson, they just been hurt. Thank you for the support, by the way, Eric. They just been hurt, right? So that's why they haven't played. It's not like they want to play and the coaches are playing someone over them because they think the other person's better and there's like that tension about playing time. They just have not been available. So I think that's really what you're looking at there, is they just haven't been available.
D, you posted a bank update. You led this morning with it, right? There's a lot of comments right now going on our live feed about a certain Syracuse wide receiver.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell us about the talent acquisition game, who Miami possibly will be linked to? There are actual players in the portal. There are huge movements inside the ACC. Jaden Knott is now an Oklahoma Sooner, and that's a really fun backfield that Oklahoma has around an absolute trash head coach. So there's a lot of movement happening right now. What can you tell us about the bank?
Thanks for setting it up. Before I get to that, so the bank, CanesInsight.com, 7 million posts and counting, all free, the latest. Those who follow this show know you get what happens way in advance. And a lot of times things that are reported are corrected on the bank. But I want to get to this comment before I get into that, which is from Philly Kane. It says, at a different time in college football, you add talent when possible. Portal's open all the time. You lose, you gain. I agree with this. I cannot agree with this more. Just embrace, David Lake, our buddy, says embrace the churn. It's just a different type of game right now for everybody. And look, here's what I want to highlight when you talk about, hey, we're not developing, we're not evaluating, blah, 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 blah. And I hear it from everybody. It's a refrain. Here's what I'll say. So I'm going back to 2018, which was a good crop of talent. We had 6 players drafted. The next year, 5 players drafted. 2020, 4 players drafted. 2021, 4 players drafted. 2022, which was the year right before Mario got here, when Manny had really hurt the program from a talent standpoint. Jonathan Ford, the only player drafted in the 7th round. That's the starting point for Mario.
Yikes.
Before he even got here and started doing work. This was...
Wait, I thought he left Oregon for a better opportunity. That's what Mike
course.
Greenberg told me yesterday.
Give me a start on that with Greenberg. So Jonathan Ford, last pick, 7th round pick. Then 2023, Mario's first year, 3 picks. The next year, 4 picks. Now, as we head into this year, you're talking about anywhere from 9 to 11 picks in the NFL drafts, including the very first pick of the NFL draft, which looks like it's all but guaranteed to be Cam Ward. Elijah Roy will go off somewhere in that first or second round, and some other guys there in day 2, day 3. So the talent acquisition is showing in the draft. You can't just look at recruiting rankings and say like, oh, well, we missed on this guy, missed on that guy, or this guy didn't pan out. look at the end result, because this is a constant process. The way you're going to measure talent acquisition is by improvement on the field, which you inherited a team that was 7 wins, you're at 10 wins. So that's happened. You want more, obviously, but that did happen. And then the NFL draft. And when your starting point is 1 7th-round pick with Jonathan Ford, and then now you're looking at 9 to 11 guys picked, including the absolute first pick, that's talent acquisition. That's evaluation. That's development. So I don't want to hear about.
It's also proof of concept for other recruits looking at your program. Mario Cristobal has come here. Miami should have been in the college football playoff, according to many watching right now. They lost 2 games all season by combined 9 points. I don't really know why he's still subject to a lot of the online criticism. There's a resume there that he's going to need to. It's like Rory McIlroy. He's going to have to do the damn thing to put some of these. You all right?
No.
Okay. He's going to have to do the damn thing to put some of these criticisms to bed. But Miami's right on track. And we were hitting all these notes underscoring why they needed to get a quarterback like Carson Beck, because if you took a big step backwards at the game's most important position for a recruiting-based head coach that was actually showing proof of concept the way that Mario had, trending in the right direction every season, better. The old adage is lose by a lot, lose by a little, win by a lot year 4. Pivotal. That's why they brought in Carson Beck.
100%. Now, listen, I don't want to make this the cheerleader rah-rah podcast. We had a 21-point lead on Syracuse to go to the playoffs and didn't happen. So there were to say that there's going to be no criticism. Obviously, there should be some serious criticism. No one's more critical than he of himself. He knows that this was a missed opportunity with Cam.
There are people that are more critical.
Well, yeah, probably. But look, a lot of changes were made, right? After that happened, there were substantive. So he knows that this was a missed opportunity.
Well, and look, when you talk about development, no pain, no gain says Cam Ward was not developed by Miami. Stop the cap. It's like FSU taking credit for verse. Look, with both of those situations, the schools that they went to helped them get to the next level. Cam Ward was going to be, a 6th, 7th round pick if he left last year, right? Miami helped provide him the pieces that he needed to show the sort of talent and quarterback that he was. And if he doesn't come to Miami, look, could it have happened somewhere else? Maybe. I'm not saying Miami is the only place he could have upped his stock, but he could have definitely picked a place that didn't help him, which I could name a few that he was. Well, I can name one that he was considering that I don't think it would have been the same outcome.
There weren't options for him. Ohio State had picked Will Howard. There was an inaccurate report.
If he goes to Florida State, is it the same exact outcome? I don't know.
Right. Basically, his only options at that time were FSU or Miami or the NFL draft. An NFL draft that he would have been a 5th round draft pick. An FSU team that won 2 games with a disastrous offensive line with a laughable wide receiver crop. What and it goes
both ways, by the way. What you mentioned, verse no pain, no gain. Yeah, he made a great decision to go to Florida State, obviously. It worked out great for him.
And he probably did develop.
Yeah, he definitely did develop, and he showed it. Now, again, same situation. Could he have gone to another school and that had happened? Probably, but he made the right choice for him, right? And we can always play the result here, obviously, but knowing what we know, Miami put the pieces in place for Cam Ward in that situation. That is part of development.
Yeah, I want to just pull up a quote here from there's an anonymous scout who said loves Cam Ward, has his number 1 player, which I think we all agree. At least I know I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's the number 1 pick. I think he's going to kill it. But when you read the quote, this is a guy that likes Cam Ward and has him number 1 overall. He says, I did him last year this is 2023, when he was initially going to come out. He was wild, not a great feel, all over the place, really. But he's gotten so much better this year. He's a playmaker. He's quick with his eyes and decision-making. The release is quick. The arm is good. Go all the way down the line. So you're talking about someone who likes him, who thinks he's great, and is saying that he's gotten better. Another quote from a different scout saying he was a disaster at Washington State. Saying this guy is the guy that didn't like him, but specifically he says, I didn't like him at Washington State. So either people that like him, that don't like him, both say Washington State film was not where it needed to be for an NFL starter projection. Pete, I know you heard the same from someone up there that was in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And now you're seeing the film here, and he's the first pick of the draft, and everybody feels good about it, including all the Canes fans who know how good he is. So to say he didn't develop here is crazy.
So what changed, right?
He had a better offensive line, which Mario built. He had a better running game, a physical running game, which Mario built, which he did at Oregon as well. And then Dawson did a great job coaching him up, and Cam Ward
and
is
letting
a
him
smart
do his
guy
thing.
who's always
And-
working.
Yeah, it wasn't just Dawson that had a hand in it.
Well, Cam Ward did himself too. He's a hard worker.
But Dawson let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Right. And
you're talking about coaches that he brought in to work with.
Let him do his thing in terms of letting him take control of the offense on the field.
Very true.
There's a lot of coaches, college coaches in particular, right? In the NFL, I think it's a little different, right? Guys have a little more freedom, but Shannon Dawson doesn't get enough credit for, at times, letting Cam do his thing. Right now, you could say, well, that's the easy thing to do. You don't even have to really call the plays to a certain extent, but to give up control, to give up, there's ego involved in this, right? So coaching is more than just calling the plays here, right? It's having a feel for the situation, having a feel for your best players and what they can do on the field and do in terms of leadership. So I think there's a lot more that went into this whole thing than, yes, putting a great offensive line, giving him protection, but Dawson, man, I think he needs some credit here as well.
26 saying, anyone saying it's a disaster at Washington State just doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks. Now, look, I'll tell you who saw what he could be, and that was Mario Cristobal in Miami, because they went and got him, paid him a ton of money. They were not recruiting. It's not like the other schools in the mix were the best teams in the country. I thought if Ohio State Ohio State won the championships, they didn't really need Cam Ward to win it. But
they didn't
every other team should have prioritized him more than they did. And certainly Miami, even when he was in the NFL, they kept recruiting because they knew what the vision was when you put him in this good scheme with these great offensive linemen and this great running game. So whether you call it evaluation, whether you call it development, whether you call it just acquisition, the number one pick is at Miami. And it's been how many years since the number one overall pick was at Miami? And who made it happen? The guy that had top 10 picks with Justin Herbert, top 10 pick with Kayvon Thibodeau. So this is not a top 10 pick with Penei Sewell. This is not a fluke. Top 10 pick next year, probably Francis Malinois. This is just part of the talent acquisition process. And I think this is something we should be proud of. And again, the fact that you're going to have guys that develop slow and then transfer out because they're getting paid a lot. This is just modern college football. As long as that draft list keeps staying close to double digits with some first rounders in there, I think we're going to be pretty happy Hurricane fans.
Yeah, and that's going to correlate to wins and losses for Miami. Once you level up the talent on the overall roster and you see encouraging signs. You may not like it when a player you might have developed a kinship for moves on with his career because they have no other choice, because the reps and the ability to develop and see the field here at Miami may not be as present to them. So you kind of have to trust that and understand that it has something to do with the overall talent being upgraded at Miami, because you got an absolute dog at head coach who's all about bringing in the talent. I mean, you can have your opinions about Mario's ability to coach him up. I think D-Money did a great job at highlighting the track record, and we offered up plenty. I mean, we've heard the reports of quarterback killer, doesn't know how to recruit quarterbacks, certainly doesn't know how to develop them. The quarterback that's like skyrocketing up mock drafts right now, Tyler Shock, he's the guy that Mario Cristobal recruited as well. So we're starting. I mean, the line that was once maybe going around the block of detractors of Mario Cristobal, that line's shrinking a little bit. You and I both had a similar Ryan Clark take yesterday.
Pretty much. I thought you were going to be worried I copied you. We didn't even know.
At the exact same time, we were both reacting to it. Apparently on this show, all they did was invoke Mario Cristobal as a part of this Tennessee story. One has nothing to do with the other.
Well, he ripped Nico.
Well, yeah, but
that's why.
But yeah, but I don't understand the ESPN talents that were calling into question, Greenberg and Clark. They were taking the side of Tennessee. Like everybody on television is putting this on Nico and his camp.
Yeah,
there really isn't. Like Ryan Clark was trying to posit maybe that the market was in a crazy place because of Mario, but like no one's pro Nico in this. This is a bad look. It's a pretty popular take, and Mario's quote on it was very pro Tennessee. It's like a dream coach, a dream quote from a head coach in college football saying, you can't allow this to happen, have your roster be held hostage by somebody. We would not have that happen here in Miami. Coach, we kind of let it happen a little bit with Tyler Van Dyke, but that was several years ago. We probably learned from
Learned
it.
a lesson. That's right.
Yeah. But now that we've had about 24 hours on this, and I don't know what Ryan Clark has said since, it felt like such an out of left field shot that had nothing to do at all with Miami. And you got to wonder what the motivation is there when you invoke Miami for attention. I mean, Greenberg mentioned Mario Cristobal leaving for Oregon. There were 950 head coaches that have left their jobs for so-called better opportunities, which Mario Cristobal did not do, because you ask every single one of those people on Get Up, hey, what's a better job right now, Miami or Oregon? They're all saying Oregon. So it defies logic. Now that you have some altitude on the situation, any new fresh perspectives on what Ryan Clark had to say yesterday?
I took it as a shot more at Carson Beck. For whatever reason, I guess because his girlfriend was an influencer, and the price tag that they put out, which we all know is BS. No one knows anything about NIL. That's one thing I've learned is that, the fans are very smart, but oftentimes smart. They often say things that the coaches say are not true, and then the fans get proven right. That happens a lot. I think the one area where fans and media are so far off is NIL and money and stuff like that. They just, because they don't have the information, not because of any issue, they just don't have the information. So people just kind of fill in the gaps and make bad assumptions. But the number was wrong with Beck. But beyond that, I guess he's a punching bag for some reason. Last year, I would always say, Carson Beck's the number one pick. Ward's the number one pick. I was one of those people knocking Beck because he was the projected number one pick, and I saw Cam Ward. I knew Cam Ward was better.
Yeah.
So I was part of that. But then we beat the guy up so bad, we forget the reason he was projected as number one pick is because the guy is good. He's actually passed the ball to receivers and tight ends in the SEC at a high level. Nico has never done anything. Nico, to me, I don't know if I'm getting too wrapped up. He sucks. What is the evidence that Nico is good? I can't think of one reason why Nico's good.
Overall team success.
In spite of him, he was a game manager, and he wasn't even a good game manager because he's dumb. So the guy's not smart. He's not very natural as a passer. He runs a little, but he's not a great runner. What is he? He obviously is a bad team guy. What does he do that's good? Maybe someone in the comments could enlighten me about Nico. I do not know one thing he does well other than have a strong arm. He's like a better Kyle Wright, maybe, in terms of he's not as bad as Kyle Wright, but I don't see anything with him that is natural to playing quarterback. If you're taking SEC quarterbacks last year, where does he rank? ACC, where does Nico rank in the ACC last year? Cam Ward was a million times better. Tyler Shuck was a million times better. Kyle McCord was a million times better.
Yeah.
Kate Klubnik was a million times better.
Can you imagine?
You could say
McCord?
Jennings from SMU was he had his ups and downs, but he might have been better.
I'll tell you this right now. If you put CJ Bailey on Tennessee, CJ Bailey, maybe not last year, but certainly this year, I think is better than Nico.
What if Mendoza's on Tennessee?
Oh, way better than Mendoza can read a defense. Nico is stupid. Obviously he's showing his intelligence here with what's happening in the off the field, but on the field, the guy freezes up. He has no IQ whatsoever. He's not natural in any respect. He's a volleyball player.
So let me go back to, because I also perceived it as a shot at both Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck, and I was really confused because the logic that I'm trying to follow, right? Mario Cristobal is partly to blame because he gave Carson Beck $4 million. Okay. The gambit is a fallacy because that's not the number. And also you're accusing Carson Beck of setting a market.
Right.
Chronologically speaking, when did Carson Beck sign with the University of Miami? He did not set the market. Mensa set the market. Roughly 36 top tier or upper mid-tier quarterbacks had established a market prior to Carson Beck. Carson Beck was a Georgia Bulldog, declared for the NFL draft. As far as we know, didn't speak to any other programs. Was granted his release from Georgia because they were ready to move on. He was also coming off of his injury. I'm sure there's some baggage there. I think Carson Beck, to a degree, while it wasn't the perfect season by the standards that Georgia had set, very much a victim of his own success over there at Georgia, established high expectations, They won the SEC, but it wasn't in the dominant fashion that they expected. I think a lot of the reason for that goes well beyond just Carson Beck and goes to the pieces that they put around him. I was just very confused by it.
And it's still the perception that Georgia, where he's coming from, had weapons last year. Like, I was talking to a Canes fan the other day who's not very high on Beck, and he was like, sell me on Beck, and I'm like, look, I don't. There's not much I need to sell. He was the projected first pick of the draft last year.
Look at the stats. He was 8th in QBR.
And then I said he had no weapons. He's like, what are you talking about? He was at Georgia. I said his receivers led the country in drops. We've gone through it before. It wasn't the normal run game. They did not have the dynamic ability on the outside. He did not have the same tight end to throw the ball to, who had a historically great season in the NFL. So there was a lot that goes into it. But I think nationally, it's still that like a Ryan Clark is thinking like, man, this guy was at Georgia and he couldn't get it done at Georgia last year. But if you look deeper into it, it wasn't the same talent on the offensive side of the ball.
He got it done though. He won the conference, didn't he? He got hurt. He won the conference and got hurt in the SEC championship game. Probably tried to play through an injury. Got hurt probably in that Georgia Tech game. I don't understand. D-Money, I remember the shows that we were doing also when we were trying to figure out what is Miami going to do at quarterback, because Carson Beck's declared for the NFL draft. We were talking ourselves into, well, the Kansas guy is a graduate. Like, there were no quarterbacks left. Carson Beck had nothing to do with the marketplace. If you want to revisit that in spring and take issue with a guy that didn't set the market but was maybe the very last addition of the market, by all means, like, you can go out there with your uneducated take that was very clearly influenced on an IG tile that you saw that made you believe that Carson Beck is getting paid something he is not.
Well, and at the very core of it, Clark is saying Mario is a part of is like a part of the issue. It's like, man, Mario is doing what every other coach in this situation would try to do, is go upgrade your team. The people who are at fault to you are the decision makers who have let it get to this point, right? That Mario's someone who's working within the system that has been formed here. So that's. I don't understand the calling out of. I see how you guys are taking it as a slight to Beck, but I look at it like he's saying, "Well, Mario, you're part of the issue." They're
trying to win.
Yeah, he's trying to win. I don't see what the issue is there.
Let me say a couple things here. The funny thing is, if we did not get Beck, we'd probably be getting like Nico right now.
Yeah, we'd
be hyping him up.
I would love to hear your propaganda.
I'd be trying to convince myself this guy is good. He sucks. Here's what I'll say about Nico. First of all, I'll say about Beck. Okay. If you want to know why Beck got paid what he got paid, go and watch, and it's on YouTube, go and watch Carson Beck against Tennessee last year. Watch Carson Beck against Tennessee last year, where he makes NFL throw after NFL throw. He's running. He is the best player on the field. Watch the game. Go, guys. If you're listen to this and you're doubting Beck, watch Carson Beck against Tennessee in that great front last year. He is the absolute best player on the field. Furthermore, if you put Carson Beck on Tennessee last year, not 2023 Carson Beck, 2024 Carson Beck, you put him on Tennessee last year, they're either the best team in the country or they're top 3. Okay, that is how much of a difference there is between Nico and Beck. I'll give you some stats here just to back up what I'm saying. Last year, Tennessee, with Nico handing the ball off to Dylan Sampson, 11th in the country in rushing yards a game, right? Now, you would say, Georgia, they run the ball. It's Georgia, man, meat and potatoes. Georgia was 102nd in rushing yards per game. Same conference. Georgia, 102nd in rushing. Tennessee, 11th. Okay, that is what he was dealing with in the backfield. We all know his receivers were horrible and led the nation in drops. That is well documented. And still, he carried the team to be better than what Nico had with Tennessee when they played. Again, this is the best game for Carson Beck. If you want to watch what he can do, he's the best player on the field in this game. Georgia 31, Tennessee 17 last year. Carson Beck, 347 yards passing, 8.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 97.7 QBR. Look at who he's throwing to. London Humphreys, nondescript white guy. I do not believe he's going to get drafted. I don't believe he is going to get drafted by the World League. He is going to be an accountant. Dominic Lovett, Oscar Delp, Ben Urosek. Ben Urosek had 51 yards in this game against Tennessee. Have you ever heard of Ben Urosek, Pete? we do a daily college football show. We follow recruiting close. Have you ever heard of Ben Eurosek? That sounds like one of your guys. That sounds like a guy playing for Arsenal right now. Ben Eurosek.
No, stop.
Let's flip to Nico in that game. Again, they both played against great defenses. They both had great defenses. Nico, 20 of 33. Wow, that's pretty good. 167 yards. He couldn't throw downfield because the guy's a terrible passer. His running game was on point. Dylan Sampson ran for 101 yards. Beck scored a running back in that game, ran for 68 on 3.6 yards a carry. But he carried the team because he is a legitimate difference-making player. That's why he gets paid. That's why Nico's out here with his hat in hand trying to get someone to pay him. Okay, so Ryan Clark, I like Ryan Clark. I'm fine with Ryan Clark. But in this one, it's lazy take. It's someone who does not really pay attention to college football at that level. He's got a lot of jobs, man. I don't envy him. He's got opine on a lot of stuff that he probably doesn't pay attention to. But to compare Carson Beck to Nico, there's absolutely zero that these two people have in common aside from being tall and athletic. There is none. And that's just what it is.
Rackham. I think, look, depending on where you look, if you actually sort all conferences, QBR, Carson Beck came in 12th. Say what you will about QBR. It's a much better rating than what was perceived as a previous standard quarterback rating. Carson Beck had a better season than guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Riley Leonard, Shador Sanders, Kyle McCord, Darian Mensah, who actually set the market, Bryson Daly, who was a Heisman contender over at Army, Tyler Shuck, who's now rocketing up draft boards, Diego Pavia, who was a dog for Vanderbilt. I have to keep scrolling down. And right behind Devin Dampier of the University of New Mexico is Nico. So I don't understand why you even have to invoke Miami. And I think that's a general problem that a lot of people had with it is what does Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck have to do at all with what Tennessee is doing with their shop? I actually think Tennessee went about it the right way. Lord knows how long this has probably been going on with Nico. My guess is it's not the first time he's tried to be a squeaky wheel, trying to get that grease.
He transferred in high
Tennessee.
school.
No, he's you lost him how you got him a little bit, and Tennessee finally met its tipping point where they said enough is enough. And by the way, if Tennessee's coming at this from a moral high ground, what do you think Tennessee is going to do to address this position? It's big time college football. They are going to moralize against Nico and get down in the dirt trying to replace him and upgrade at that position, something that shouldn't come too hard given the stats that I'm looking at.
I'm with you. I would get whoever Notre Dame doesn't name the starter. That's what I would get for Tennessee. Like an Angeli, if he doesn't start, I like him. That'd be my kind of move there if I'm Tennessee. And look, I like Tennessee. I want them to do well.
Guys, I wanted to get not to get us off of this topic, but
it's about time we move.
There's a comment here from Yalaha Kane saying, basically, and he's had a couple comments like this, like saying, be stable, be consistent. How you do anything, do everything. How's the recruiting and encouraging those guys to leave by going after guys now jumping ship for dollars? Then he said something along the lines of so without the recruits playing, guys you fought for 100%, they need to be replaced. Your talent evaluation must be the problem. We've talked a lot about 3 freshman wide receivers that have essentially passed up the guy who's leaving. So,
great point, Pete.
I mean, is that not talent evaluation from this last class? You're not going to hit 100%. It's not going to happen. You believe you've hit on JoJo Trader from this last class. You believe you've hit on 3 now from this class. Your best receiver in program history by the numbers, who was he developed? Did he not get better throughout the 4 years without any sort of these physical tools, as we've seen through his draft process, right?
Arroyo developed too.
Or I don't know, man. I think that we follow this program so closely and don't really pay attention to what happens elsewhere. And you just got to understand it's never going to be 100% hit rate on these things. To talk about talent evaluation, yeah, there's guys you've missed on. That's we gotta be real with that. But you got 3 guys in this class you believe just passed this guy here. Mm-hmm. So to me, you call it recruiting over, you call it competition, whatever you want to label it. That's how this thing goes. You got it. The guys who aren't playing, who don't see themselves playing this year, they move on and you continue to upgrade.
And also, like, I understand where this person's coming at it with. You wish that your talent evaluation at the high school level hit at 100%, and you wouldn't have to go at the portal because you're just firing on all cylinders. Are you worried about optics? Do you want Mario Cristobal to not upgrade the talent on the roster, on the football team that you support, just because he's like, but I recruited this guy out of high school? The game has changed. There's something called the transfer portal now. Talented people enter it. You're the number 1 overall pick, entered it. You had a 10-win season because this thing exists, because the head coach didn't just sit idly by and say, he's a good player, but we want to stick with our guys. What are we talking about here? Everybody else is doing it. You want to win at the highest level. You replicate what other people do and you improve on it. And I understand where you're coming from, but you're asking for something that doesn't even happen at the upper echelon of programs in college football in the transfer portal era. Guys are going to be going in and out those doors, and it's whoever is the best at this dirty game that's going to be having all the spoils at the end of the day.
Yeah, we talk about evaluation too. Don't forget, he was at Oregon. So all those guys that he signed at Oregon, some of whom left to other programs like Benson at FSU last year. After he left, they went to other programs. How many of those guys got drafted? There were a ton last year that got drafted. Powers Johnson was one that got drafted. Now you're seeing Terrence Ferguson, Jeffrey Bassa this year. And those are just guys that stayed at Oregon. There were others like Kingsley, who's now with the Chiefs, guys that went to other programs when Mario left that he had evaluated out of high school, then ended up going to the NFL. So there's a lot of guys that Mario signed out of high school and thought were good players that are going to the NFL or have gone to the NFL and are playing a lot. He's also evaluating guys out the portal. Like, portal's an evaluation thing too. You don't just get guys out the portal without evaluating them. They're not all created equal. So I would say Cam Ward, to evaluate a guy that was a day 3 pick and see him as a top 1 overall pick, that you're desperate and you're calling him every day and you're not quitting until you get him. And then you get him, then he's a top overall pick. That's pretty good. Damian Martinez, who's already a good player, but you identified him correctly as far as being someone who could help you and do exactly what he did. Simeon Barrow, a guy who was first team all ACC. It's not like we weren't perfect in the portal. Sam Brown could have been better. Still probably might get drafted here, but you hit on a lot of these portal guys. Francis Mawanoa, linebacker no one heard of at Washington State, is now going to be 4th round pick.
Markel Bell
was out of JUCO. We'll talk about him next year, but I think next year you're going to see a Markel Bell, a Mawanoa.
Another feather in the cap for development, by the way.
Big time. I mean, offensive line development, I think that's kind of, people are still arguing that. I mean, obviously the number 1 overall player in the country believes it. So
yeah. Pete, there has been a lot of movement for the men's basketball team. Obviously a lot of slots to fill, fewer than last week. Exciting stuff going on. Miami is certainly, just looking at the roster, far from done. Additions to the coaching staff. What's the latest update and the goings on over at Coral Gables?
So I'm keeping a close eye on Chris Bell, the Syracuse wing transfer.
That's the only Syracuse player that we're talking about on this show today.
No, we'll go. We'll take
right.
the bank in a second.
I'm keeping an eye on Chris Bell. I think that he could. This team, I think, right now really needs some wing length and some shooters. Really needs shooters to space the floor. So I think gonna be adding someone from the Euro ranks here pretty soon, from what I understand. Haven't been able to lock down a name yet, but a shooter. Don't believe it's the Bosnian Bulldog. So I'm not saying he's not still in the mix, Harun Zedno, but this would be a different name. So a guy who's 6'8", believe he's playing 6'7", 6'8", believe he's playing in the I believe it's the Croatian league right now. So he's playing over there from what I understand. This is something that Trenton Breeze and I have been working on. So he would be a guy that you bring in as a shooter. Chris Bell, though, there's some ties there. His father grew up with Kevin Durant, as childhood friends with Kevin Durant in Baltimore area there. Durant and Jay Lucas have ties from Texas there. They didn't play together, but I know there's a relationship there. Jack McClinton, also a Baltimore guy. From what I understand, there's some familiarity there with Bell and his father. Bell and his dad both followed Kane's Inside on Instagram within the last 24 hours. Follow the follows. But that would be a big one, man, because he's a guy who a couple years ago averaged 12 points a game, averaged like 9 points a game this last year. And the shooting percentages were down. But, man, when you have a dramatic drop like that from one year to to the next. To me, or a drastic drop, I should say. There's other factors to it. I don't think you just lose your ability to shoot overnight. So that would be a really, really big addition there. And then Dante Allen, we talked about it pretty in depth yesterday, but that's a huge local pickup. A guy that when he played with the Boozers growing up, a lot of people would have told you that he was like the alpha dog on the team when they were younger, and top 40 player in the country. So great things happening now. Need some depth in terms of the interior. Need to get a backup center, maybe a stretch 4. But I think shooting and wing length, wing versatility, Marcus Allen, someone to watch out for that we mentioned. Of course, his coach, Charlton Young, coming over from Missouri. And, man, the Miami ties are pretty deep right now with this staff.
Miami has to microwave a basketball roster, so naturally they're going to depend a lot on the transfer portal. By the way, if you have issues with the transfer portal in football, what's happening in women's and men's college basketball right now is insane. The roster movement there.
Yeah.
But, and this coaching staff is a little behind the 8 ball in terms of high school recruitment, given when they came aboard. Are they ignoring high school? Or are there a couple of high schoolers on the radar outside of the obvious?
Dante Allen, he's a high school guy there. Harun Zedno would not be he's not a high school guy, but he would have 4 years of eligibility. I believe that this other Euro player that I'm talking about would have multiple years of eligibility. So, look, I mentioned it yesterday as a possibility. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility to see the Boozer twins end up at different schools. So that could be another one there. But again, these guys are with Duke. So I'm not trying to start any other speculation there, but the ties are obviously so deep there that we've gone through it. We've highlighted it. We don't need to go through it in terms of what those connections are. But yeah.
One last question: coaching staff, is it fully built yet?
It's going to be more announcements, I would say, this week. We'll see if they can end up getting this GM thing sorted out that we had mentioned before on the website. But I know that, listen, the person they want to bring in is also wanted where they're at right now. So there's a little bit of a back and forth going on there, but that's a good thing when you're trying to take people from big time programs and they want to keep them. We'll see if that ends up happening. But Eric Pastrana, he was announced yesterday, came over from Georgia, another guy with South Florida ties. So he's going to be one of the assistant coaches. I mentioned Jeff Dyer, who's been around as director of basketball ops. Expect him to stay in a similar role there. Charlton Young, we mentioned him. He was announced. So we'll see if he can bring Marcus Allen with him. I think that would be a really nice addition. But Bruiser Flint, we've heard his name a lot. Surprised that one hasn't, materialized yet officially. I still haven't heard that it isn't happening, but that would be one on the radar. And then I would say more people on the personnel recruiting side.
Do you see Allen and Bell potentially both coming, or do you think it's an either-or deal?
I could see them both coming. Yeah, because I just think that right now you have Donaldson at guard. You have, I was saying Malik Allen, his dad, Dante Allen, who I think probably would be like one of the first guys off the bench.
That's Malik Allen's kid?
Yeah, that's Malik Allen's
wow.
kid. Yeah.
Blast from the past.
Yeah. Well, and he's a, assistant coach for the Heat. So still, so obviously local still. But yeah, and I think Bell's more ready-made right now as like a shooter scorer from the outside. I think you can kind of slot him in as a starting 3, I would say, D, with him, and then the kid from New Mexico as a starting True Richardson, right? From is it Richardson or True Washington? Sorry, True Washington. So he'll be the starting 2 guard. I would say Bell, if this happens, slot him in as a starting 3, and then Renau, Ernest Ude, and then I would say Marcus Allen, just because I think the shooting that Bell brings to that lineup, probably I would favor him there. But Marcus Allen would be a guy that gets, I would say, 15 to 20 type minutes a game potentially as like a 6th, 7th man, and with some of these other guys maybe.
And if someone were to want to get the best croqueta in Miami, where would they go?
You're serving them up, by the way. Serving up a lot of alley-oops. You still haven't gotten to the bank. I missed that alley-oop because I wanted to get Grant
I'm just
on deck
trying to
a
make
little
sure
bit
we
'cause I
take
was
care
so
of our
frustrated.
partners.
We'll take care. We always take care of Croqueta County, Islas Canarias, the #1 Cuban restaurant on planet Earth, right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. I'm probably gonna go there today, man. I got my lunch open. I'm going out there, get some jackfruit ropa vieja. But you can get the real meat. You don't have to get the vegetarian. They got plenty of options. Kimchi croquetas on top of the OG ham, the classic, voted the best croqueta in Miami every single year. Also gluten-free options if you don't eat gluten. Again, I still don't know what gluten is. I'm almost 40. That's not been something I've learned over time. Do you know what gluten is?
Isn't it in bread?
Processed. Dude, it's anything you're gonna find in processed carbs, man.
Do you eat gluten, Pete?
I mean, try to stay away from it, but I think everyone ends up doing it unless you're very careful. It's tough.
Never subscribed to the gluten-free thing.
Oh yeah,
I've done the low carb thing and I've found plenty of success there on just like really focusing on proteins, but gluten, not really. No nutritionist has ever told me to cut back on it, nor have they ever explained to me what it is, nor have I ever seen a nutritionist.
I was to ask about that. If anyone knows what gluten is, let us know in the comments. But if you don't like gluten, they have gluten-free OG ham classic croquetas. They got 7 different types. So chances are you're going to find what you like with the best croqueta in Miami. Cubaditos, grab them and go right there by the Metro Rail. So if you're on the run, the best place on the planet. If you like the merch, croquetacounty.com. Always get a lot of compliments on the merch. People love it. So Islas Canarias, this is probably one of the easier sponsors to promote because we love it. We've been there. We love all our sponsors.
Yeah, actually had some delivered 2 weeks ago when I had my dad over for dinner. So,
really? How was that?
No, having my dad over for dinner.
Yeah,
it's a mixed bag, but the food was great.
And he looks good, so he didn't get fat. He's still, he's able to hold the whole.
No. My dad looks great.
Brian says eat more gluten. Don't listen to Big Pharma.
All right, Brian. Let me tell you, I bet you're huge on the message boards. I'll follow you on X.
Appreciate Brian. Always the support. Boys, we're done talking about football.
Well, listen, I was gonna say the social media wise, man, the basketball posts are outperforming the football posts by a country mile. So let's step it up, or else these are gonna turn into full on basketball shows, man. I don't know.
Well, I'm
trying to scare you guys into interacting more with the football posts.
We're pretty balanced. That being said, we've drawn this out long enough. Here's the alley-oop, D-Money.
The bank, 7 million posts and counting on Canes Insight for free. If you haven't signed up yet, you listen to the show, sign up for CanesInsight.com. It is addictive. It's by far the biggest Canes community on the planet. It is always bumping, especially portal season. A name jumps in the portal. There's a thread immediately with a ton of discussion, involved debate, going back and forth. It is all over the place. With respect to the bank, those who know, and I read it, you hear what's going to happen ahead of time, a little bit most direct info on the planet when it comes to the Canes. If you know, you know. So I dropped it today. A lot of news going on, the portal, recruiting. So just some tidbits there, Pete, from the bank. Obviously, Jackson Cantwell, #1 player in the country in terms of recruiting. He's going to be a top topic of discussion. I continue to hear confidence on Jackson Cantwell. I know he's visiting Oregon. He's going to make a decision here at the end of the month. I'm told Miami feels good about the job they've done recruiting him, their relationship. It's recruiting. You never know. He's going to Oregon. We'll see. But Miami is very much in on Jackson Cantwell. They have made a very aggressive pursuit, and they feel good about where that's going. But we'll see. I would bet on Miami, but I've been wrong before. The staff has been wrong before with this recruiting. That's the way of the world. But if you're asking me, after setting the Oregon visit, all that is a doom and gloom about Jackson Cantwell, at least here. It is not. Miami still feels good about the #1 overall prospect in the country. He'll be committing somewhere at the end of the month. Big story we talked about yesterday, Trevor Pena from Syracuse entering the portal, reports linking into Miami. I'm told kind of slow down on those reports. That's not something that really advanced right now. I know Miami really feels comfortable with Malachi Toney in the slot. You got Ray Joseph there as well. My guess is they probably look more towards an outside receiver with speed. But either way, Miami is going to get an impactful receiver in the portal, or else they didn't do their job, and they don't intend on leaving the portal without an impactful wide receiver. I like Pena. I thought Pena fit the bill as an impactful receiver, but I think outside receiver with speed. Singleton that went to from Georgia Tech, that went to Auburn, to me is like the standard of what they want. They probably would have gotten him if they had Carson Beck at the time. They didn't. But I think if someone like that enters the portal, that's really, to me, what Miami's looking for, with the speed on the outside, with an impactful player. It's going to cost a big bullet, right? There's a limited amount of resources. You got to pick your battles here, particularly in the spring portal. impact wide receiver, I would say, is on top of the list as far as big bullets financially. We'll see where that one goes. Another one, safety. I would say starting safety. We talked about that a little earlier. Starting safety, maybe another safety that's more in the box kind of guy. You see numbers there when you're losing a Zaquan Patterson, and they just need a starter next to Zachariah Poyser. So I say that's next on the list. They're going to get a rotational defensive tackle. You'll lose a Josh Horton. You hoped he developed into that. He did not. So Miami's going to get a rotational defensive tackle. That could happen quickly. We'll see. But that's something I think Miami needs and will pursue. I don't know if it'll be like a Barrow where it's like top of the market kind of guy. They were really desperate last year when Harrison Hunt left. They already got Blay, who was a number 2 portal defensive tackle in the winter portal. So they have a little more quality there up top. They got Justin Scott, the 5-star, playing at a starter level. So I think a rotational defensive tackle and linebacker, I think they want an impact guy. If an impact linebacker jumps in the portal, they'll be all over it. Just a guy, I don't think that's what they're trying to do. We'll see. Look, some of these other positions, if the right guy jumps in, you never know. You kind of go on a case-by-case basis, but those are the main targets right now. Recruits to watch, wide receiver Braden Robinson, an electric slot receiver from Texas, from the Dallas area, 10'4", 100 meters, smaller guy, under 5'10", but super fast, super quick, very productive player in the slot, returner. I could see him going to Miami. Had a great visit here. It was Miami and Notre Dame. Notre Dame just took a very similar player, Bubba Frazier, who's another slot returner. So I could see Braden Robinson continuing to trend towards the Miami Hurricanes, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. Tristan Keys, number 1 receiver in the country, made another unofficial visit to Miami for the spring game. He just signed with Adidas. That's something to keep an eye on. Of course, Miami is an Adidas school. When you're talking about these top end guys, it's like basketball players. The
synergy is important.
Involved. Yeah, so keep an eye on that one. And nothing imminent there. That's going to be a whole process, a whole recruitment. He's committed to LSU, but I think the Adidas thing is going to help Miami, and obviously any visit helps.
So what happens if Miami leaves Adidas next spring?
We'll see, man. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's get this recruiting class and this portal class wrapped up. Some other topics that people come at me a lot with is who's going to be retained, because the hidden thing of this is you're not just trying to add players, you're trying to retain your current players, and that's the battle that goes unseen. I heard Miami feels good about the guys that they're trying to retain. So as of last night, I felt there was a lot of confidence there with the players being retained. And then we talked about Malachi Toney, Miami feeling good about him in the slot. Some other guys that I was told could expect to play early. There's not an exhaustive list. Obviously, you have a whole summer, whole fall camp to see what these guys got. But Brock Schott, tight end, defensive tackle Dante Simpson, cornerback Chris Ewald, who's also a nickel. So that's the bank.
That was a great update, D. I've actually got something on the Adidas front. A little newsy. I don't know how many people are actually aware. Miami's there have been outs in this contract along the way, and people always like to point to a specific end date. Miami's continued its partnership with Adidas. Miami has been happy with Adidas, far more by comparison to their older partnership with Nike. Now, Mario Cristobal was at Oregon, played at Miami, and coached at Miami when it was a Nike school. I think you can piece together by the shoes that he wears on the sidelines that aren't Adidas often, that, he's probably more a Nike guy in a vacuum. However, I will say that the staff has been really pleased with the partnership with Adidas and how it's developed in these new times with NIL deals. You saw Adidas get involved with Cam Ward a little bit when he was doing his Heisman campaign. Adidas has been perceived as an asset lately. So if there's ever going to be a new partnership that Miami entertains, it's going to be viewed through the prism of, can you elevate what we are already doing over here? If Nike is willing to meet Miami at that summit, cool. It's not something that they've showed in the past. Mario Cristobal has what we believe to still be good relationships over with Nike, despite him breaking up with Oregon for a much better opportunity, according to Mike Greenberg. But I would say that right now, the vibes surrounding Miami's Adidas deal are a lot more positive than they were, say, 2 years ago, because of all the stuff that Adidas is doing in the NIL space and the marketing space. That it's something that Miami's actually been leveraging lately. So I wouldn't put all my eggs in let's count down the days till Miami can leave and maybe go back to being a Nike school. That's not necessarily the vibes that I'm catching right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, he's going to sign in December? So I don't see anything changing before then. I don't know. I'm not a shoe guy. I mean, I'm wearing New Balances at all times. So, what you got?
I don't think it has anything to do with you being.
I got the Nikes now. I got
times I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
You got the on clouds over there.
I love how,
so European.
No, I love how he says I'm not a shoe guy, as if that has anything to do with Miami's like Miami.
Well, I just don't know. I don't pay attention. I don't know what's going on. It's not something that I pay attention to. depth defensive tackles in the portal, I'm going to be more attuned. You're talking about shoes and things of that nature.
I will say that Under Armour must have paid an arm and a leg for that deal with Cam Ward, because I know that they hate losing, having been around it before. Adidas, who signed David Njoku, and Njoku is an Adidas athlete coming out of Miami, like as a first round pick. I can only imagine what the thing was for Ward.
Yeah,
man, they don't want to lose guys who come from the schools and to lose the number one pick. That's tough for them.
That was a stunner because I thought Adidas actually did right by Cam Ward with the Heisman marketing campaign. I was really surprised to see that. So yeah, it must have been a big one. But then you start going like, I know he's really tight with Shador, and that family had a whole bunch of Under Armour ties. Although it's hard to kind of pin Dion down a little bit like that. But it was really surprising to see Cam not sign with Adidas, given how effective I thought that campaign was, how cool it was. He was in a national spot. And then just a couple of weeks later, boom, not in the Adidas family. Definitely a bad look and an embarrassing look for Adidas, as you mentioned, pointing out. That's the number one overall draft pick that they just lost to a competitor. Not a good look.
Do quarterbacks sell shoes? Like, they wear cleats. Like, do they sell shoes?
I mean, Mahomes
has.
Yeah.
Mahomes has some like turfs, I want to say, right?
Deion Sanders, hugely successful in selling shoes. I have a couple of pairs of OBJs. Now, that might probably go in the Yeezy Sean John pile.
Probably more. I would think more like a merchandise line. Like Mahomes has his. I see people that wear Mahomes merch.
I did like the OBJ footwear at the time that it was cooking, and I actually I just got rid of a pair of JJ Watts when they were Reebok. I did have a pair of those too.
Air JJ Watts.
Yeah, they were Reebok, man. Reebok. That was when Reebok was struggling.
That was the last shoe I actually cared about buying. Was the Allen Iverson, the Question shoe.
Oh man, you don't like the Anthony Edwards? The Anthony Edwards shoe is incredible with Adidas.
I'm so down on the NBA right now, aside from the Heat playing game, which I'm going to treat like, the birth of my son with intensity. But the NBA sucks right now. It's just, I don't want to get into all that. Switch the topic. But
you're like one of the more pro NBA guys that I know.
I'm the guy that watches. I watch Summer League. I care about this product, and the league just is so garbage. I mean, you don't know who's going to play from game to game. It's just, it's hard to watch. I'm in a baseball, by the way, Big League show, the show I started with my buddy, Adrian Lorenzo, former executive with the Marlins, with the Boston Red Sox, 2-time world champion with the Red Sox. Check that out on YouTube. Big League show. Promote that one here.
Did Pete name it?
That's what when I found that name, I was like, man, I need some royalties here, man.
Big League show.
You got both. You got both.
That is gimmick infringement, my man.
Big League show. Check it out on YouTube when you get a chance if you're a baseball fan. Look, we'll do the constant plug here for canesconnection.com/CIS. Make sure you get that /CIS.
Yeah, and be careful which social platform you post that on, because it is a word that is a buzzword.
Oh, at CIS?
Yeah, every time.
Dude, I do CIS live for Canes Inside, and it always tells me it's an offensive phrase.
Elon thought cisgender was an insult, so anytime you put cis, he thinks that it's an insult.
I mean, whatever. The word wasn't invented when I made up this website in 2011. So we'll deal with it when.
You could also Google it and find out how ridiculous of a ban it is, but whatever.
canesconnection.com/CIS. You get access to private Zooms, ask questions, exclusive Q&A with myself, where I can talk about things that I cannot talk about on the show. And obviously, look, it's with Canes Connection. So put two and two together as far as how accurate this information is. And again, different levels to get into. It all helps. Be part of the solution. Be an insider for real, not just someone who reads something from someone else, but someone who's contributing to the process and being led into through the velvet rope to Canes Connection insiderdom. I know it's been your life as a Golden Cane and a Canes Connection member has been life-changing for you.
It has been life-changing. Great relationships with the program and players alike, great opportunities born from it. And thankfully, we had a football season like last year where we can see that we're on the right path. Basketball, we took a few steps back. Obviously, on the women's side, we know that Katie Meyer is a legend that you're replacing, and that's going to take some time, but very encouraged by what the women are doing on the trail. Trish seems to be an absolute dog on the trail, ready for that fight. So highly encouraged there. I do want to take a moment to credit Canes Insight. Bang up job so far in this spring season. This is a highly competitive space, and I would stack the quality of the reporting and the accuracy of the reporting and the sheer volume of reporting, mainly done by these two gentlemen over here, Peter and D Money, up with anybody in the space. And obviously you guys watching, you probably consume a lot. I'm sure a lot of you would back up what I'm saying right now. Canes Insight has been an absolute juggernaut in the reporting space. Their credibility is second to none. They, a couple of people have tried going at our own credibility and they've learned their lessons. Hopefully Canes Insight is rocking and rolling and is only going to get stronger.
Oh yeah, we're rolling. Baseball's going as well. Nice big win over FAU in the midweek. You're starting to see Walt. What are you laughing about? It's been a tough game. That's been a bugaboo the midweeks and FAU. So you conquer two demons at once. Brian Walters, I think, is doing really, really well in that closer role. Probably suits him better, like his brother Andrew Walters, who's now with the Cleveland Guardians as a closer, one of the best closers in Miami Hurricanes history. His brother now in a more comfortable role. They got a chance here, man. If they win this Georgia Tech series, Georgia Tech's one of the top teams in the country. Got probably the top player in the country, a center fielder, Drew Burris. If Miami can win this series, they got a real chance to get closer to 500 or over 500 and potentially make a regional, which would be a huge step, man. Look, we can be critical and we could say, things that are true about the expectations being lowered and the program not being where it needs to be right now, but make a regional. That's improvement over where you were last year, and that's place that you want to be as a Miami.
Certainly want to get over 500. That is
in the ACC. They're over 500 now.
Yeah, certainly want to get over 500 in conference play. That is, that's why we do this thing. That's why.
Shout out to Evan Taveras, freshman from the West Coast of Florida, had a big double yesterday. Shows a lot of potential at the plate, developing behind the plate as well. So
before we get into, let's just get this comment. Yalaha Kane says, so Pena's going to get paid to take Ray or Tony's job now. No, we just had the update. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Man. So,
yeah, stop.
Appreciate you, Kermit Russell. Like and subscribe to this channel.
It's WrestleMania week, so I want to leave a lot of time for us to get our nerdy wrestling stuff in. So let's start with the song of the week.
All right.
That way we know that we can leave more time on the back end and we can have the people that hate the wrestling drop off. But I will say, if there's 1 week for you to sit by and stomach the wrestling talk, it's WrestleMania week. You're going to be curious. Your feeds are going to be flooded. You're going to want to know what's going on in the grandest stage of them all. So we'll update you there. But D Money, please take the steering wheel and tell us your entry for the song of the week.
Song of the week. I had a little country theme yesterday or last week. I'm going to keep it rolling here with a song called The Mule Skinner Blues by Dolly Parton. Really, this is a song by Jimmy Rogers, written in the 1920s. One of the classic country songs that has been covered by a million artists. I love the Dolly version. I'll get to that in a second. But starting with Jimmy Rogers, who wrote the song. So Jimmy Rogers was a hobo, right? Vaudeville performer, considered by many to be the father of country music. And what he did was interesting because he took the vaudeville, right, which was the predominant form of entertainment in the early 20th century, and that kind of style of song. He picked up the blues by riding trains. Again, he was a hobo, so he heard the blues musicians come in and out. He took that to his game.
Hobo's an offensive term.
Really? To who?
Yeah. They've stopped using hobo. They go with the term unhoused. I was corrected on this. It was by a Hollywood liberal, but I'm just saying it's a thing.
I mean, hobo is not necessarily homeless. These guys, it's a whole culture. They ride trains. They write songs. Jimmy Rogers wrote a lot of songs about hobos.
We don't say homeless or hobo anymore. It's unhoused is the term.
Well, Jimmy wrote a lot of songs about the unhoused in the early 20th century, and that was part of his shtick. And he really brought hillbilly music into the fold as well. Just combined a lot of things to birth what is now country music. He's considered the father of country music. This song right here, Mule Skinner Blues, is about his work on the train. One thing that Jimmy Rogers also added to the mix was yodeling. Of course, that came to America from immigrants from the Alpine regions. You're talking about Germany, Austria, Swiss. They brought yodeling into the American South, into the Appalachian region. And Jimmy Rogers, who's, I believe, from Mississippi, I know he spent a lot of time in Texas, but he's from the Deep South, worked the yodeling into the blues and into hillbilly music where it previously was not. So created a whole different style. This song, Blue Yodel number 8, called Mule Skinner Blues, was exactly what it sounds like. It had the blues pattern. he yodeled, and I believe it was the 8th one of these. So it's a blue yodel number 8. I love the Dolly version because she was like 25 at the time, 24. So she's in her absolute prime. Looked great, sang great. She's from the mountains, so she was a natural born yodeler just by nature being a mountain girl. Her yodeling skills were somewhat innate. So she brings a whole different sound to this. It's a great band playing at a fast rock and roll pace. Mule Skinner Blues, Dolly Parton, outstanding recording. Check it out if you're a fan of yodeling.
I will check it out. I do like a good yodel. Now, what was that game on The Price is Right where the yodeler would go up the mountain?
I forgot about that.
We'll have pizza on it right there. Rob, chill out. Did you not catch the cisgender conversation that we happened? It happens on both sides. My song of the week is going to be a band that I've already highlighted with this segment before, Turnstile. One of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite active contemporary rock band going. Their last album, Glow On, dropped in 2021. And for me, it was earth-shattering. One of my favorite albums of all time. Catch me on the right day. I'll tell you, it is my favorite rock album of all time because it's just a fun album. Look, there are a lot of bands out there with something to say. Turnstile, not necessarily one of them. Turnstile just wants to make you rock and have a good time and have a great relationship with your music. Now, this is a huge album for them. This is the one that's going to cement them as headliner status. They have Rick Rubin producing this. You would think this is when an artist, a band, maybe feels the pressure to reinvent the wheel a little bit, challenge themselves, progress. And while I think that day may be coming for Turnstile later on, they're going to keep riding the horse that brought them. And they're just going to keep having, from what this lead single tells me, a really fun sound with really high-level engineering, and that's where they'll get the production nerds. But again, not a lot to say. We're just going to rock, and I was so pleased with this lead single, Never Enough. Is it formulaic? Probably. Is it a damn good formula? You bet your bottom dollar. I love this band. I expect big things from them. The lead single got me really excited because I thought they might have overthought this one. I think if they kept riding the same kind of sound, then a couple of album cycles from now, they can really challenge themselves and push boundaries. There's still a fresh enough sound for me that I want more of what I like. Turnstile delivered on that. The album's coming out in June. I imagine wholeheartedly that this band will cement themselves as a headliner going forward.
Yeah, I liked what you sent me here. There's a second appearance for Turnstile on the Canes Inside playlist, which, by the way, if you are interested in yodeling, independent rock, whatever the hell else we got in that mix, check out the Canes Insight playlist. This is me and Mike's songs. Also the songs that I use on those preseason hype pods that I've been going back to 2017, 2016. So those songs are all on there, kind of mixed up together. I try to put them in order. It's a little tough sometimes because me and Mike come from different perspectives a lot. But I like stuff. I'm learning about music, post 1975 through this process. So it's been fun. So check it out. It's on Canes Insight, or just write Canes Insight to Spotify, Apple Music, and you will get that playlist. It's kind of all over the place. But this was good. I like this one.
Thank you, man. The comments got me laughing right now a little bit. There's some funny ones in there. There's a Canes comeback tour. I have tried out Red Clay Strays, and they are very good. I really like that sound. I like country music that isn't necessarily formulaic, more alternative with real distinct voices. That's the easiest way with my country heart. That and yodeling.
Oh yeah, no, the yodeling is good. I mean, honestly, country music, people think it's one thing. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of mixing and mashing. That's what go back and listen to Jimmy Rogers and some of that stuff. It shows you how it all comes together. It's different styles. You got Hawaiian music in there. The slide guitar is a Hawaiian instrument. You know, the Appalachian music. Banjo comes from Africa, I believe. So, I mean, it's a big mix.
Slide guitar is a Hawaiian instrument?
The slide guitar. Well, think about it, like those luau's. Isn't that the slide guitar?
Okay. All right.
So that was just brought to country music. You wouldn't consider the two the same, but the guy that played the slide guitar on I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, probably the most famous country song of all time, he was a Hawaiian guy.
Yeah.
So,
Well, then Elvis leaned hard into Hawaii.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Blue Hawaii, one of the best soundtrack albums of all time. I Can't Help It. He covered that song as well. But, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. Probably one of the best songs of all time. That's actually a French.
Well, the cover.
That's a French song from the 18th century, believe it or not.
Do you like
the guy that wrote that song had a powdered wig?
What's a better cover of that song, Elvis or UB40?
Oh, UB40 was the best one.
Yes, thank you. Fine.
No. Well, better than the Elvis one. Best of the covers. Best of the covers. The best
not
version
better than the
was
Elvis one?
No, come on. It's one of the best songs of all time. Like, how many weddings have played that song? How many marriages have come? People have come together.
He doesn't have the horn section though. The UB40.
Oh, yeah, UB40 the best cover. Cover wise, UB40 is the best.
What movie was that from? It was on the soundtrack or something. The UB40. I'm gonna check that out. Dating myself. Listen, and I don't like Baldwin.
Oh, here, look at this. Brian saying, D Money, listen to Jerry Reed. Amos Most. It's funny you say it. I was listening to Jerry Reed on the way over here. He actually also covered Mule Skinner Blues. So if you want to hear a different version than the Dolly version I posted, Jerry Reed, the guitar man himself, has a great cover of that song.
Sliver.
As well.
Sliver was the movie that it was in. Was that which Baldwin was that? Was it a Baldwin at all?
I'm going to present this Juan Manuel post with this emoji-filled Juan Manuel post without comments.
It was Billy Baldwin.
Billy Baldwin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know what to do here. Those mangoes at the end, peaches. What fruit is that at the end?
That looks like a mango.
I had a mango experience this past week. We talked about it. So Pete, so my son's friends came over. We're playing basketball in the backyard. They're just doing their thing, having kids, having fun. And the neighbor have a mango tree. I have Orthodox Jewish neighbors. Blessed Passover to all of our Jewish listeners. Love my neighbors, Ron and Malka, the best. But they were trying to give us the mangoes. So they told their kids to give us the mangoes. And the kids started throwing the mangoes into the yard, very generous. Delicious fresh mangoes. And the mango actually hit one of my son's friends in the eye. I believe he might have suffered a mild concussion. So it was a tough week. But that was kind of a little, only in Miami Beach thing when you have to watch for flying mangoes delivered by Orthodox Jewish neighbors. I believe it hit a Cuban. But we as the Cubans do not hold a grudge. We love our Orthodox neighbors, Ron and Malka, the absolute best. Hope they had a beautiful Passover. And we're no harm, no foul on the mangoes. We actually ate the mangoes. The mango that hit this kid's head and gave him a concussion, we ate it. It was delicious. Wow. So all is well that ends well.
That's very nice of you.
He can't come over anymore. He's not allowed.
I love that story. I may or may not have been texted the video privately.
It was true, right? You thought it was lying. It's a true story.
No,
it was a lie.
No, I know you always come at it from the truth. D-Money, like that one was one for the books. Yeah. All right, you ready to do some wrestling talk?
Let's do it. It's WrestleMania week. You're going to be there in person. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
You came in here stressing like, oh man, I got so much travel. Like you're out here crunching spreadsheets, doing depositions. You're out here going to WrestleMania in Las Vegas. So my wrestler of the week, combining a lot of my passions, Liv Morgan, who former Hooters waitress, she would put on wrestling at Hooters on the TV until someone from the industry came into that Hooters and said, hey, you should try out, learn to wrestle. If you love it so much, you should learn. She did, and it's been a process. She would start off as kind of like a fan, baby face, like everybody, underdog, and she was okay. People liked her, but I don't think this was her full form. Once she turned heel and started kind of, vamping it up a little bit, let's say, with Dominic Mysterio, I thought she went to a whole nother level. Her in-ring work, it took a lot of work because she's not a natural athlete like a Bianca or Rhea Ripley, but all that work has paid off, and I think she now is very good in the ring. Just has a nice feel for the little things, the facial expressions, takes a lot of bumps. She has no regard for her body. She's a true fan. She goes for it, and I think really she's peaking right now. Got a tag match at Mania, but I think Liv Morgan right now is at her absolute peak.
Triple H always showers her with praise after every PLE in those press conferences. And yeah, Liv is a testament to their great developmental program, especially on the women's side. I think that they've actually really taken a step back in developing male stars, and they've turned more to free agency a little bit. Developmental, though, not just at NXT, on the main roster, there's a lot of great stories, a lot of great stories to hang their hat on in terms of development. Look, the biggest star, arguably one of the biggest stars in all of wrestling, Rhea Ripley. Do you remember how she came out the gates on the main roster? Like a wet fart. It did not work out. They had to rebuild her character. And there is one common thread between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. And it's not just the Judgment Day. It is a love for my wrestler of the week, Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio has won a lot of people over. There were a lot of people accusing this man of being a Nepo baby, obviously the son of Eddie Guerrero. That's what he tells me in every interview that he's ever had, that he really respects his father.
Looks like Hector Bellerin.
He does look like Hector Bellerin right now. Dominic Mysterio gets that great, natural, true heel heat. Like The Miz, like Randy Orton when he's sinister. He's not the cool guy that you want to cheer for. However, at WrestleMania, during the first ever Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental Championship at a WrestleMania, I will be rooting hard for Dominic Mysterio because this guy has been entertaining since he entered the main roster. I love the program that he and his dad both took part in. Well, his fake dad, Rey Mysterio Jr., took part in against Brock Lesnar. That's one of the more underrated rivalries and matches, I think, of the modern era. I love the Seth Rollins ridiculous thing with an eyeball popping out. Dominic was around that. And then Dominic had a great match at WrestleMania in Los Angeles that I attended. That was my favorite match of that entire card. And Rhea had a banger on that card. I thought Dominic and Rey were just highly entertaining. Dominic continues to be highly entertaining every week on television. He just delivers, and the fans are super into what he does. And I hope against hope that he leaves that main card by just scheming and scumming his way to a first ever singles championship on the main roster. That'd be such a great moment. It'd be hilarious. Now, Dominic, you need to get in the gym. I don't know what we're doing.
That's part of the appeal.
Part of the appeal is that you're like, you need an injury, you go away for a little bit, you come back, and you're about 50 pounds more massy. Like, we need that to happen because you got future world champion written all over you if you got the body to match. That's the only thing holding you back. You got the height. You certainly didn't get that from Rey. You didn't get that from Eddie. So, Dominic, I big fan of your work. Love how you handle interviews as a real wrestler should. You never really break character. You keep kayfabe. I'm a big fan of Dominic Mysterio, and I hope he leaves WrestleMania with his first ever singles championship.
I couldn't agree more. I got a comp for Dom Mysterio. It's not Eddie Guerrero. It's not Rey Mysterio. I think he is a better version, and I don't say this lightly. We're talking about a world champion who's been around. I think he's a better version of The Miz. That's what I would say with Mysterio. I think he's better in the ring, just smoother in the ring, second generation, so he has that, a better seller. Just, I think he's better than Miz in the ring, at least at the same age. And similar outside the ring. Maybe Miz can give more impassioned promos, but Dom gets just as much heel heat. I'm a huge fan of Dom. I agree, future world champion, like as the Miz was a two-time world champion. I could see that for our boy Dom.
I love that comp. And I hope that he's picking his brain nonstop in terms of, because very similar in terms of the heat that they draw. And Dominic can draw big business if he has that extra secret sauce. He needs to be a little bit better on the microphone. Right now, he's just getting by on almost pure Nepo baby.
He never gets a chance. He gets booed too much. He never gets the chance to talk.
So there's a couple of places where his game can definitely step up. Physique and on the microphone when there needs to be a little bit more to his character. Right now, there doesn't need to be more to his character because he's young. But as he grows longer in the tooth in this industry, he's going to need to evolve. Miz would be a perfect guy to talk to because that is a great comp there. Pete, do you have a wrestler of the week? It's WrestleMania week. I'm hoping
funny you ask. Let me tell you, you guys might have picked him before, but I'm gonna go right back to the well. Because we're making history this week, fellas. We're getting inducted for the third time into the WWE Hall of Fame. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart, the pride of Canada. The greatest technical wrestler of all time. 7-time world champ. 5 times in the WWF. 2 times in the WCW. Huge in the 80s. Carried WWF on his back in the early 90s after Hogan left. I chose him because we're making history this week, brother. We're making history. His submission match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 will be the inaugural entry into the Immortal Moments category. You're damn right, wrestling has more than one royal family, and it all started with the Harts.
The delivery is amazing. What gets me is the incredible accuracy of everything he says.
He's on the money.
He could not be more on the point with everything he says.
Look how red he turned. He's just
wrestling has more than one the command of the shtick.
Yeah, and Pete, if he were a wrestling fan, which he very clearly is, he would absolutely be a Bret Hart guy.
He would.
He certainly fits the bill. That was bravo. That is worthy of the week of the Showcase of the Immortals right there, my friend. That was great, Pete. And agree on a lot of fronts, although he's a bit of a mark for himself, but you are too. So
say Pete is like the biggest.
Did you guys pick him? Did you guys pick him before?
Bret Hart? No,
might not have.
Okay, good.
I'm not a Bret Hart guy.
Pete's not a wrestling fan. Pete is wrestling, man. Look how he wore that scarf the whole time, just living the gimmick.
It looked like it was choking him out. It looked like it was choking him out during that impassioned defense of Bret Hart's credentials there. Anything? Look, it's WrestleMania. I would say that the build for this card has left me wanting. I hate what's become. It was so electric. They caught a moment with the John Cena heel turn, and it feels like because maybe Dwayne isn't available, they pivoted somewhat and just made John Cena your kind of run-of-the-mill chicken bleep heel. And that's not what I was. Had I known that this was the path that they were going to have to go down and their hand may have been forced, I would have said just keep them both baby faces. Cody versus a babyface John Cena would have made for an incredible dynamic with both of them flirting with that line.
Yeah.
Really disappointed with that. I will say, unexpectedly, and I'm not a fan of triple threats at WrestleMania, the other main event has had a really quality build, and CM Punk's at the center of it. And I'm not a big CM Punk guy, but I mean, in terms of emotional investment in his programs, he's been their MVP for the last 2 years. So I'm really happy with that. There's some real gems on this card. I'm really curious to hear your takeaway. And where do you fit? Where do you side when it comes to this main event that has kind of left other people wanting more?
I agree with you. And I would say, look, you mentioned the build for the other main event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think the build was one of the best, if not, top 5 build in Mania history. I mean, it's a 2-year build.
Yeah.
Right. For the main event last year. I thought the year before that was an exceptional build. We're seeing a common thread. Mm-hmm. The island of relevancy, the tribal chief. I think that really is an underrated part of this, is that when you remove him from the main event picture, I do, and I'm being honest, I'm not just, I know I'm a mark for the guy I always talk about in the chats, but the build doesn't feel as special without that reign. That was such a feeling. That's why last year was so awesome. That's why the year before was so heartbreaking for so many people. I don't get that feeling with this one. I also think they're just too similar. I agree with what you said, that they were both kind of like towing the line being similar, because even when he's a heel, they're still pretty similar. They have similar vibes. They talk a lot on the mic, like they're very verbose on the mic. They talk probably a little too much for me. I like a little more to the point kind of promo. So don't love it. We'll see. I think the matches will carry. Usually what happens, the build goes away, and then on the day of the thing, great match. I would say Cena to win over Cody, just to prolong that program for the rest of his run. And then the triple threat, Punk, I think probably takes that one.
Count me in as the group that is hoping that the ultimate swerve is Heyman going with Seth as the diversionary tactic, and maybe that has something to do. There have been a little Easter eggs there in terms of long-term storytelling with Seth's comments, best for business, dressing a little bit like The Rock. Maybe he fits into that, and I would certainly hope that The Rock returns, because I would say that The Rock injecting himself into this gave this card life, and then being removed without real mention has really taken the air out of it. We haven't even mentioned, there's a triple threat main event. There's nothing on the line but bragging rights in that main event. It's a testament to get that program over the line. A triple threat that isn't for a title, to get that kind of investment closing night one is a huge achievement, because the Jey Uso thing has been an utter disaster from where I'm now.
Jey Uso?
It has never been for me. Jey Uso, I think, is for kids. I get it. If you're there, it's maybe fun to do the thing. It's an energy thing. How has he gotten worse as a singles act from a promo perspective? Because as a tag guy, he was a very intense promo. I know his character's changed, but I don't understand why his promos have gotten so bad. He's calling for music now constantly because that's all he's got. And in the ring, it's gotten worse. I'm really disappointed. And I know it's probably all the momentum was going to a crowning achievement for Jey Uso, a guy that's been in the company for 15 plus years, getting that big moment because Lee Fitting loves a camera shot. But I think that he's really fallen flat on his face. And that's not a joke at how much he's botching. Like, I don't know how you could, if the decision was Jey Uso, let's give him that crowning moment. I got to think he's done some stuff over the last few weeks and maybe talk you away from that position and just keep riding Gunther, because this has been bad.
I think it's not for us. I think when he was in the Bloodline, it was very serious, kind of adult-oriented storyline. He was great at it. Now this is more of an old-school underdog. And I will say, it's not just a camera shot. He's selling a lot of merch. Kids love Jey Uso. I can tell you my kids are most excited about this match on the card. Yeah. So it's just because it's not for us doesn't mean there's not a purpose on the card. I think that's sort of the perspective I'm seeing. Got Ray Haynes here, our buddy. Met him last year. Great dude. I'm in Vegas right now. Wait, where we go? I'm in Vegas right now, waiting for Mania Week to kick off and acknowledge my tribal chief. Still being on East Coast time out here is kicking my butt. Waking up at 4:30 a.m., eating lunch at 9 a.m. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun week, man. I'm jealous of you guys. Predictions for match of the. I don't have the cards in front of me as far as the days, but the 2 matches I think are going to be the 2 best matches. I'm going to say.
By the way, it's 12:59. I don't know if you still
Yeah, I
have
don't
your-
have,
your
it's a
hard
softer
out.
out, so I can geek out with you for a little bit more.
I'm going to say with Brian, AJ versus Paul, that would be what my prediction as far as technical match, just from a work rate standpoint. And I like the matchup because AJ's small, Logan Paul's bigger than you think. He can kind of throw him a little bit. He's got that great finisher. He's got some great throws.
The pulverizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
That looks awesome. With AJ's a smaller guy, so he can kind of do those moves to him. Plus, they can both fly. And AJ can kind of carry the match from a timing standpoint. Paul's just a natural. Love him. I think this is a great match. This is probably my match of the weekend. The other match I'm looking forward to the most, Tiff and Charlotte.
Oh, I thought you were going to go El Grande Americano.
Oh, that's gonna be great. I mean, well, they changed his entrance, his hometown from the Gulf of America. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. I mean, that was a great gimmick.
Well, he's a Mexican luchador. He's probably not honoring what the executive order, so it actually makes sense.
I guess, man. The guy's wearing the Stars and Stripes Forever with the mariachi. They had the whole gimmick, and then they kind of tinkering with it. I didn't love that, but we'll see where that one goes. But Tiff and Charlotte. This match is going to be high flying. It's going to be sloppy. And people always say, oh, Charlotte matches, they're not smooth. They're supposed to feel like a fight.
Mm-hmm.
These girls don't like each other. I think with Charlotte and Tiff, they both are high flyers and they're both strong. They got all that. They hit hard. They bring an aggressiveness, an old school aggression to the ring, which I think is lost from the old NWA matches. Were not smooth affairs, but you believe that the people were out there trying to rip each other's heads off. I think there's going to be an element of that in this one. There'll be some botches, whatever is going to be intense. They're going to hit each other hard. There's going to be some crazy high flying. And I'm really looking forward to this one. Some real bad blood between Tiffany and Charlotte Flair.
My match of the 2-night card prediction is going to be that triple threat to close night 1. I think you just have 3 really smart wrestling minds, 4 if you include Paul Heyman. I think it's going to be overbooked, which is what people want. Keep in mind it's triple threat rules, so that means there's no DQ. There's just going to be a lot of great ring psychology. You'll probably be a huge fan of the pacing in this match. I'm really happy that Seth is in it, because if it was just Punk and Roman, that would be a very plotting match. I'd be checking my phone a lot during it. But I think with all those aspects, the build, the physicality, Roman Reigns, who's very quietly, since he dropped the belt, turned into one of the best sellers in the business.
Wait, hold on. Wait. He's been the best seller. He's been the best seller in the business the whole reign.
He doesn't have to be doing this, and he's making Punk look like $1 million right now. He is just he is really giving right now. And I think you're right on the money with AJ, especially what you read about Logan's preparation for matches. He's not natural. He didn't grow up. Well, he's a natural athlete, but he didn't grow up in the business. He rehearses a lot of these spots for oftentimes weeks on end. He's in the ring with a guy that can make anybody look like $1 million in AJ Styles. So I imagine they've worked through those spots. It's going to be really fun to see. AJ can still go at his age. He has the athleticism to really make Logan Paul look dynamite. I think that this is going to be a huge match for Logan Paul, as it's about time to hit the button on him, to have him ascend to the main title picture, I think. So I think that match is going to deliver. AJ is going to catch the L, no doubt, at 42 years old. But I'm such a big AJ Styles guy, and I'm turning into a Logan Paul guy, that I think that could be a really important match to set the table for what's going forward for Logan. And zero juice. I cannot believe how juiceless this Cena Cody thing has become.
Yeah, Cena. Cena has not been good in a while. I got to be honest. As far as even remember,
why are you strapping him, D? He hasn't won a match in 6 years.
Because he's going to be there till the end of the
year.
But
he's not even working with Travis Scott.
I don't think Cody's been a very good champion, by the way, either. Not through fault of his own. I don't like him in that role.
Well, because the story that he was chasing so long, he became top dog, and you knew that he was going to carry the belt till Mania season. So it was a lot like my main issue with Roman, which is this is kind of predictable. I'm not really feeling the threat of him losing. That being said, I at least want to be entertained. And where Roman was starting to lose me toward the latter end of his run is the matches weren't delivering. The LA Knight one wasn't good. The Jey Uso match at SummerSlam was one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
You're right. That run, I think people knew it was building to Cody.
Yeah,
last year.
Yes.
Because they knew he wasn't going to lose even more than they did before. Mm-hmm. That's what I think hurt it. It wasn't the work necessarily.
It's tough. That's why they introduced a second world title into the picture, because they kind of know with that one big Triple H seems to be a fan of longer reigns. I will say that even though it's been predictable booking on the Cody front, his programs with Kevin Owens in particular, the AJ Styles one. He's had one 5-star match with AJ Styles. The program with Kevin Owens is probably, Kevin Owens is going to be remembered for a lot of great programs. That's one of Kevin Owens' better ones. So I think he's done really well with it. And there's a lot of guys that I still want to see him match up with. I don't see how logically you can strap John Cena if The Rock and Travis Scott aren't there to help him, because he's a guy that'll lose to Austin Theory to open up a WrestleMania card. He hasn't won anything. And during this build, he hasn't shown a sinister side. There's one more SmackDown for him to do something evil, something sinister. Maybe there's a payoff where he attacks Michael Cole. I don't know. Maybe there's something, but I have yet to see it right now with John Cena. And that is a huge issue.
I just pulled up. I don't know if this is accurate or not. All right. I'm just pulling up from let's see here. Let's see if I got this right. Oh, I think we might. So we got Bad Bunny tour. I am seeing April 25th. Does he have a show the 26th? I'm not seeing it. Let's see. Does he have a show April 26th, which is this Saturday? I don't see it. Does he have a show the 27th, this Sunday? No. Talking about surprise, that'd be a pretty good one. You got Travis Scott involved. I'm not saying for the main event. I'm not saying maybe it's El Grande Americano involved there, but I'd like to see Bad Bunny make a return to the WWE where he belongs.
Well, a happy WrestleMania week to everybody. Happy WrestleMania week to you, Pete. Good luck today at the Lucky High Top. You're going to need it. This would be the crowning achievement of Carlo Ancelotti's zombie formula for Real Madrid. And I think I speak for everyone that follows a Premier League club that isn't Arsenal, which is please embarrass the hell out of Arsenal.
Scum. And you know what's gonna be the funniest part? Seeing our two-faced friend Master in the stands rooting for Madrid after he was there at the Emirates last week rooting for Arsenal. Scumbag, two-faced.
Miami Hurricane Team Store, 20% off with promo code INSIDE20 your first item. Get the Sean Taylor jersey, get the Ed Reed jersey, best in the business. When you go to see the Georgia Tech at the light, getting smoked by the Hurricanes, go across the street, Thesis Hotel. Tell them Canes Inside sent you 20% off your first item. Go Canes.
Go Canes. A la Madrid.